What's up, guys? This is Zach with Top Deck Nation coming at you today with a deck profile straight from the World Championships. If you haven't already, be sure to check out Pokemon.com. You can check out all of the top 8 decks from the World Championships from all divisions, so junior, seniors, and masters. But today, I'm going to look at one of the decks that made the finals of the World Championships of 2016, and that is going to be Greninja. So I'm super excited to show you guys this deck in a battle because this is probably my favorite deck of the format. So I was able to pilot Greninja to a top 8 finish at Kentucky State Championships. Never topped a states before, but this year I was able to, and the deck is just so good. But this is Cody Walinkski's deck, and this pretty much takes Greninja to a whole new level. You know, a lot of people were like saying, is Greninja going to be good next format? It's losing a lot of stuff, and it's just going to be hard to set up without, some cards. But, Greninja is looking better and better thanks to this Talonflame. So I did see a few of these players at Worlds playing this Talonflame in the Greninja, and I was like, why would you play that? But if you look at this list, it's really unorthodox, really unconventional. So let's go ahead and check it out. So, you're pretty used to, you should probably know what Greninja does already. If you don't, basically it's got those 2 attacks there, Shadow Stitchy and Moonlight Slash. Moonlight Slash is what you're mainly going to be attacking with. It does 60 damage, 20 more if you want to return a water to your hand. So it's already a solid attacker, but what makes it good is the abilities. So we have Greninja BREAK, which is essentially what you might think of as like a stage 3, which is, at first it might seem like impossible to get out, especially without something like Rare Candy. But that ability, Giant Water Shuriken, it gives you a huge edge against these big Pokemon EX decks and things like Night March. Once during your turn, if it's your active Pokemon, you can discard a water energy and essentially put 6 damage counters on any of your opponent's Pokemon. So 60 damage without even having to attack. So if you're playing against something like Night March, or Vesselgun, you can just go ahead and knock out those Combees and Pumpkaboos and Joltix without even attacking. So you can already see why it's so strong. But then you have the XY Greninja, and it's got like a toned down Water Shuriken. Once during your turn, discard a water energy and put 3 damage counters, so 30 damage. So, if my math is correct, if we do 2 Giant Shurikens, a regular Water Shuriken, and then a Moonlight Slash for 80, I think that is 230 damage a turn, possibly. That is ridiculous. That can take down even like a Zygarde EX with a Fighting Fury Belt, or even most like Mega Pokemon. So really, really strong. But the problem is, sometimes Greninja just isn't that consistent. At Nationals, I played it. I think I got like 4-1-3 for my record. I had to drop eventually. But it's, you struggle with consistency because you don't want to play Shaman. You want to focus on a non-EX deck. You don't really want to play Octillery because it's a liability and it just takes up more spots in the deck. And of course, you can't use it immediately. So this Talonflame is what makes Greninja even better. So, kudos to the players that kind of came up with this concept. But basically, you use this ability called Gale Wings. So if you start with Talonflame in your hand, you can actually put it as your active Pokemon. And that's going to be huge because Talonflame is a whopping 130 HP. It's got free retreat. It's resistant to fighting. And then Aero Blitz does 40 for 1 energy. So in this case, a water energy. And search your deck for any 2 cards and put them in your hand. So if you're not having a good start, you search your deck for a Professor Sycamore, another supporter. You could search your deck for 2 Frogadier. The possibilities are endless. Not to mention, late game, if they end you to a bad hand, you just Aero Blitz and there you go. You get your Lysander or your water energy or whatever you might have and you're good to go. So that is why this deck is really good. I love pretty much all the cards in this list. You also only play 3 Froakie because it's going to kind of maximize your chances of starting with Talonflame. So chances are you're going to be starting with Talonflame and it's going to feel awesome when you do. But we've gone over the Pokemon. You know what they do. As far as their supporter count, pretty standard here. 4 Sycamore, that's going to let you, it's not Sycamore. 4 Sycamore, that's going to let you discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Really good, really consistent. 4N, I actually played 4N at both, at Nationals. I guess it wasn't legal for states. I think I had to play Judge or Birch or something then. But N makes it really good because you can constantly disrupt your opponent as you get set up. And it's a good way to make sure you don't lose your resources. We're playing a Fisherman that's going to let you get your watered energy back and kind of overwhelm your opponent with those shurikens. Ace Trainer, I was on the fence about this, but in this deck it's really good because Talonflame, I can just kind of use his Arrow Blitz and get Ace Trainer anytime I want. And early on, this is really good because if they knock out a Frogadier, I can play Ace Trainer and put them down to 3 already and punish my opponent, and I'll draw 6. So really good. And then finally, a Pokemon Ranger. This is just in case you go against like Seismitoad EX, you get item locked. This is going to basically get you out of the item lock for a turn and maybe let you use some items you need to get the edge back. So maybe like a Verse Seeker to get back your supporter, or a Dive Ball to get that Greninja Break, etc. Our stadium of choice, of course, is going to be Rough Seas. It's going to let you heal 30 every turn. And keep in mind, these Greninjas have free retreat, so you can constantly switch between 2 or 3 Greninjas and really mess up your opponent's math to the point where it's going to take 3 turns to knock out a Greninja. And that's only if they can, constantly get that Lysander. So really good. We're going to be playing 8 water energy. This is pretty standard for a Greninja list, but we're also going to place 2 splash energy. So I like Cody's choice here. Splash energy can only be attached to water, so it won't work with Talonflame, but this is going to really make it a 6 prize game here. It's going to let you pretty much attack with 6 Greninjas, because when Greninja gets knocked out, it's going to bring everything back into your hands. So if you have for example, a Frogadier, a Froakie, and a Greninja out on your bench, well, when your Greninja Break gets knocked out, you get to evolve 3 more times in that next turn. So really interesting play here. The only thing is that you can't use this for water shurikens because it only provides water energy when it's attached. So be careful with that, but still I think it justifies being in the deck here. And then finally for our items, we have 4 Dive Ball. This is good because most of our Pokemon are water types. 2 Level Ball to make sure we get out the Froakies and our Frogadiers, of course. Battle Compressor, I like this. I played 2 Battle Compressor at Kentucky States and found that it was awesome, but this is really there to get rid of those Talonflame, because if you don't start with it, it's 4 useless cards in your deck, or even if you do start with it, there's 3 useless cards in your deck. But it can also be good to get out things like Ace Trainer, Pokemon Ranger, Fisherman, etc., things that you normally wouldn't draw into. We're going to be playing a Megaphone. This can kind of help you with the math in case your opponent plays, Fighting Fury Belt, stuff like that, Garbodor. 2 Super Rod. I love this instead of Sacred Ash because I can get back water energy, and then I can potentially get 6 Pokemon back. So if I discard a Super Rod, not a big deal. I can, use another one and still be okay. And then, of course, Splash Energy. So, between Splash Energy and Super Rod, Cody made sure that, you're going to have probably 6 Greninjas to use throughout the game. So it's going to be really strong. 4 Verse Seeker, just for consistency. Lets me reuse my supporters, of course. And then finally, what I like about this deck is the Bursting Balloon. So this, again, is going to help your math out tremendously because Bursting Balloon is going to make it so that if they attack your Greninjas, they take 60 damage. And that's really good because that's setting it up for a knockout. So 2 giant shurikens, so not even attacking, will get you that knockout next turn. So really good against Night March because if they have to attack you, well, suddenly your Pumpkaboos and Joltix, they're going to get knocked out regardless. So gives you an advantage against things like that. So I definitely like that choice. A very, it's a mix between like a defensive build. You've got Rough Seas, Bursting Balloon, Splash Energy, and then pretty aggressive as well. So I really like this. But I think I've pretty much covered everything in Cody's list here. And, he had a lot of success with it all the way in the finals of World Championships. Just a great deck choice here amongst all the Night March, Vespiquen, stuff like that. So I did get a chance to play a game and record it earlier on PTCGO, Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. So let's go ahead and jump into that and see how this deck performs in action. All right, guys, looks like our opponent is flipping the coin to see if they go first. And looks like we will win the coin flip, so we will go first, and hopefully the odds are in our favor and we'll draw that Talonflame, and there we go. So we will start with Talonflame. Since we only played 3 Froakie in this deck, I should say, chances are you will start with it, but not every time. It's about even or so. But thankfully we were able to go ahead and start with it, so that's good. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and probably attach to the Talonflame. It looks like we're playing against some kind of water deck. I saw Regice, so maybe it's like a water box deck with like Seismitoad and Palkia, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and play an N. and that's just going to refresh my hand so I don't have to discard a lot of resources. And I get a pretty good start here. I get a level ball. You always want to make sure you have 2 Froakies out just to make sure you can get set up, make sure those Frogadiers can come out and you get that water duplicates attack. And at this point, I can't use Talonflame's attack, so I have to pass here. So I'm just waiting for him to put down some stuff, but I see a town map, so that gives me an idea of what he's playing. I see a Pokemon fan club up there, so yeah, I don't know. I see a DCE come down, but I'm just kind of waiting for some other attackers as well, unless he doesn't have a very good hand. But I see a Tierno. Okay, that's not really a card you see pretty often, but it's gonna get him a fresh, 3-card hand there. And it looks like he's got to pass. So he's got 7 cards in his hand, but he will have to pass, unfortunately. So at this point, I think if I, discard a few cards in Sycamore, I might be able to get a Frogadier. That's what I really need, so I get that duplicates. But, it looks like I'm going to have to just Arrow Blitz. So I'm going to do 40 damage, which isn't bad. It searched my deck for any 2 cards. But, ideally, I really wanted a Water Shuriken. Or a water duplicates, I should say, to get the Frogadiers. But it's going to go back into his turn. He's going to attach a Splash Energy, it looks like. So if I do knock it out, it would go back to his hand. But he needs more Pokemon because he's already got 40 damage on that Regice. So 80 more and it's a knockout. So potentially my next turn I could have won. But I didn't get the Frogadiers, unfortunately. We see a potion, so he's going to heal 30 damage. So at this point, he really needs something else. Resistance Blizzard is good, but unfortunately for him, I don't play any Pokemon EX. So he's going to need something else, Seismitoad or, there's lots of attackers in that Water Box deck they can play, but he does need something. We see a Team Flare Grunt, so that's going to knock off it looks like a Water Energy. So, yeah, he'll have to Resistance Blizzard. He might get a knockout next turn, but I do have 2 Frogadier. I've got an extremely good hand right now. And yeah, I've got plenty of supporters. I've got the Burst Balloon just in case he tries to attack me. I've got pretty much everything. And I think Talonflame is just, Talonflame is so good, guys. It's such a really clever card to play. That ability, the ability might seem really bad at first, but it has a lot of synergy with things like Greninja, like Vespiquen, a lot of these decks that can actually use that consistency. In Vespiquen decks, it can either be an extra attacker or, if you start with it, that's fine. But if you don't start with it, that's just more damage in the discard. And then in Greninja, typically you don't play many basics at all. So, you can actually drop to 3 Froakie and pretty much start with Talonflame most of the time. So really clever on these players' parts here. So, kudos to Cody, Walinkski, and the other group of players that kind of, came up with this. I did see a few different decks like this all weekend, but that's really clever. Pretty awesome, actually. And we're going to see Regice. It can use Resistance Blizzard and knock Frogadier out, but I have a Bursting Balloon, so he will take 60 more damage. Thankfully, he does have 2 more Pokemon out. We see a Seismitoad EX and a Lugia EX, so it will take a few turns to actually, put some damage on his board. He's not in any, immediate threat of losing the game or anything like that. But he is in a pretty bad position considering that, I've got all of my frogs out. I prized 1 Frogadier, but that's not a big deal considering I've got Super Rod and Rough Seas. I should be able to make these frogs, last pretty much the whole game, especially against something like this. So at this point, I'll bring up Frogadier. I've got Greninja, and I'll probably just play N. So I should be able to get a knockout. And I will go ahead and get 6 cards. And we see the Splash Energy. And again, I do like Cody's choice to play it this way. Because he only plays 7 basics, he has so much room in the deck to play other stuff. So, most Greninja decks might play 7 to 8 Water Energy, and that's pretty consistent. But, he took it to a different level. He played 8 Water, which is good already. And then he added those 2 Splash Energies. So basically, he was saying, I'm going to make it a 6 prize game every game. You're going to have to knock out 6 Greninja or 6 Greninja Break to beat me. You can't just, knock out the 4 and get it that way. Because if you think about it, that's pretty much what Greninja is. If you discard your Super Rod, your Sacred Ash, it's pretty much like you beat 3 or 4 Greninjas and you win. But in this case, beating 6 Greninja is... it's almost next to impossible in a lot of games unless you just have a type advantage like Vespiquen or Yanmega or something. But I will go ahead and get the knockout with Moonlight Slash. And I think I brought the energy back to my hand just so I can have some of those water shuriken shenanigans in a few minutes. But at this point, he's probably going to be Quaking Punching. If he can pull off like a Max Elixir Energy Switch combo, we might see a Grenade Hammer. That might be pretty effective to just one-shot my Greninjas. But otherwise, I'm not really sure what he can do. Quaking Punch, don't get me wrong, it's a really strong attack. Item locking your opponent is really strong, but this deck is pretty resilient against things like Seismitoad because you play a fixed supporter line. It's pretty self-sufficient. I mean, Talonflame can get me any 2 cards. Greninja is, I can just retreat between them and heal every time they attack me. So, the item lock isn't really a big deal. So I'm just trying to think what I should do. I'm going to attach the Splash Energy to the one on the bench because if I attack with the one on the bench, I can heal the one that's active. I'm just going to let it get completely healed before attacking it again. I get a really good hand off of this. I get 2 Greninja Breaks and a Frogadier. And at this point, I think I can just, retreat and attack. I'm going to hold on to the water energy just because... I might top deck next turn, something that can help me get a knockout from the shurikens. But I really don't want to have to, waste those energies and then suddenly be stuck there and item locked. So, at this point, I guess he can Grenade Hammer, but I mean, he would need something like, I don't know, like a Giovanni Scheme, I guess. He needs to hit that magic 170 mark. And if he can't do it, then he's going to be in some trouble. So he has to hit 170 damage. If he doesn't, that Seismitoad is probably going to go down. And, right now it's already going to go down because of the Shuriken and the Moonlight Slash. So, and that will put me down to 3 prizes. So my game plan probably at this point is to finish off either the Kyogre or the Lugia and then the Regice, of course. That'll take me to, just the amount of prizes I need to win the game. But we see a Muscle Band get on the Lugia, and we see another Muscle Band on the Kyogre, and he's going to go for the Grenade Hammer, so it's doing a ton of damage, but it isn't enough because Greninja has 20 more HP than that, so, maybe Quaking Punch would have been better, but I guess he realized, if Rough Seas is out, my Quaking Punches don't really do anything. So he could be setting up next turn for like an Arrow Ball knockout with Lugia or something. But at this point, I can Giant Shuriken and I can actually knock out this Seismitoad this turn. So that's going to be really strong. And I've got a Bursting Balloon, so that's even better. So, I've got so many options here. It's really in my favor right now. My opponent had a slow start, but if you look here, he's got 3 energy on Seismitoad. He's got 3 Muscle Band. He's got, a bunch of attackers. So I think it just kind of goes to show you that, these evolution decks, they are playable. It doesn't have to be a big basics deck with, these 200 HP Pokemon that can hit for like a 1 or 2 energy. It doesn't have to be that way. And Cody built his deck so that it really does well against these kind of big hitting decks, because even if you knock out a Greninja or 2 Greninja, you've got to knock out 4 or more. And basically these Greninja are as strong, or if not stronger, than a Pokemon EX, but they only give up 1 prize. So, really good deck choice on his part going into this weekend with, where a tournament where like Night March and Vespiquen and a lot of these decks like that, these were the top contenders. These were the ones that were hyped. And I did see Vespiquen, reach the top. I think it's in the, it was in the finals at the senior division of Masters, or the senior division at Worlds. But Greninja is, such a good play. If you can avoid things like Vespiquen, it has a great Night March matchup. Talonflame just adds so much consistency. It's just kind of unreal being able to get any 2 cards, when you can't get set up. So Greninja is likely going to just put some heavy damage on this Lugia, and then I just have to knock out the Regice. So if I can do that, I should be good to go. And I'm just waiting on my opponent here. You know, he can Aero Ball. I mean, what he could do is actually Lysander out the Greninja and knock it out. And then next turn, if I can't knock out Lugia, he could use the second attack. I think it's Deep Hurricane. And he would actually do 170 by discarding that Rough Seas. So, I mean, he's not out of the game by any means, but he needs a lot of resources. And yeah, it looks like he's been stuck using Tierno. Which, if you don't know what Tierno does, it's just a very vanilla card. It's draw 3 cards. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, drawing cards is good, but it's really hard to compete when you play things like Professor Sycamore, when you discard your entire hand and things like that. But I'm not sure what he did there. Maybe I didn't see it correctly. I know he got Tierno, and then I think he just kind of Sycamore his hand. So, but like I said, there's better supporters than Tierno. And then, of course, you have Shaman and Octillery, which can also draw cards as well. So it's all about being, extremely quick, outpacing your opponent, getting set up before they do. And it's just kind of hard to do with things like Tierno or, other supporters like that. But I will Giant Shuriken, and I'll actually get to retreat out and Giant Shuriken again. And so I'm actually going to be taking a knockout this turn. And I could actually do 210 damage to this Lugia if I wanted to. I mean, that's really just kind of unreal, or more, I guess. I mean, 230 damage, I guess, but it's just an unreal amount of damage here. So Lugia is going to go down. He's down to Regice and Kyogre. I'm down to 1 prize, and I've got 2 water energy in my hand. So I can Giant Shuriken twice, and that will knock out Regice for the game. So he's going to need like an N or something, and we see him concede. So that will be a victory for Greninja Talonflame here. My opponent, he did get set up somewhat despite the circumstances, but I think he had trouble drawing into everything because he didn't have, a good supporter in the beginning. He had things like Tierno instead of like Sycamore. He had a couple things prized as well. But guys, that is going to be Greninja Talonflame. Again, this is the list used at the World Championships by finalist Cody Walinkski. Again, great deck choice, great player. The deck is just amazing. I mean, it's, you've got the prize exchange going for you. You got Talonflame to set up if need be. Way to think around the box. It's a great deck. And, it's not even that expensive. I mean, besides the Greninja breaks, which have dropped considerably, I mean, it's almost like a budget deck. There's no Shaman, no Octillery, anything like that. So yeah, but I'll post the deck list below. I'll also post the Pokemon.com website where you can look at the top 8 for Masters World Championships. But be sure to subscribe, like us on Facebook at Top Deck Nation. Check out our website, topdecknation.com, for free content. We are upgrading the site, adding new articles, content, deck lists, videos, and more. But this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation, and I will catch you guys in the next video.